Hello friends. So this week we are going to continue with our foundation work. First week we did feet. We moved up into the ankles. We're moving up into the knees and the hips, and we're going to kind of just slowly bring that work all the way up. The foundation are the feet, most definitely when we're standing, but when we're sitting it's the buttocks, bones, right? And if you look at the greater subtle energy work of yoga, everything from the perineum, the tailbone, down is our foundation. So, that said, you want to have a slippery surface, so that might work for you if you're not on a mat or if you simply have socks on. But if you need to make your, allow your mat to be a little more slippery, laying that blanket down underneath you, especially this time of year, it also gives you a layer of warmth while you are laying on the ground. We'll be there for a little bit this morning. Well, this day, wherever you are on your day. Okay, so we're going to start on our backs right off the bat. My microphone's on that side. I'm going to face this way. Okay, so as you lie down on your back, take a couple of moments, get yourself settled in. You always have that option of feet wide, knees leaning in, or legs extended out. Sometimes I try them both on for size and feel it out, which one feels the best at this moment in time. Right? And then I do that one. Arms are Shavasana style, but again, if you feel like you're more connected to your breath with your hands on your belly, if your hands stay warmer and it's cold out, etc., take care of yourself for sure. Close the eyes and let's just take a few moments in our awareness here, right, and just start to practice that. I'll talk you through that body scan I love so much, right? We start to get a systematic way to speak to the nervous system. We start to mentally map areas of our body, right? And we kind of, it's like a blueprint, I always think of it that way. We know where we start. So bring your awareness into the muscles of the face and notice the muscles of the face. If you have any contraction, can you release the contraction? And separate from contraction, there may just be tension. Maybe you always furrow your brow and you have been for 5 decades, right? So just tune into those subtle things, any energy you feel as well. And neck and throat and top of shoulders is our next little area. Tune in to the shoulders, down through the arms, all the way to your fingers. Check into the chest and the upper back and let that run through the torso, down to the pubic bone and the tailbone, right? All of the torso. And that includes our spinal column too, which, for some people is pretty, I'll call it juicy with sensation, right? And let's take the hips all by themselves. And the hips can encompass, right? We always think of the hip bone, or the socket, sorry. But you have your hip bones are part of that, right? They hold the socket. Your upper leg bone holds the ball to that socket. So let that be anything within that area. And then check in hips to legs to toes. Pay attention to the breath for just a few breaths. You don't have to change it, you're just noticing. And then also, I guess I'll call it evaluating as to whether or not it would be wise to change the breath. What do you need this morning? Do you need energy? And with then maybe a little bit of a more, not hyperventilating, but a little bit more quicker of a breath, a little bit quicker of a breath. Would that behoove you? Maybe just a little bit of pressure of the belly button moving towards the spine on the exhale.
Right? Are you feeling like you've got anxiety or worries or fears that are coming up? Would it be wise to move a little slower and maybe concentrate more on the exhales, which stimulate the relaxation response, etc.? But maybe you're feeling pretty balanced just as it is, and maybe nothing needs to change, yeah? Okay, so as we begin to move, walk your feet into hip distance if they were wide. Put your feet on the ground if they were extended. Pardon me. And we're going to start with knee work right off the bat, right? So I want you to just go ahead and I just want you to flex the right foot, and slide your right foot forward, yeah? And then slide the heel back. And you don't have to give it a lot of mind. Actually, don't give it too much mind. Do it again and just kind of notice, would your knee like to move into the center, the midline? Would it like to move out to the side? Where is its comfort zone? Where is its pattern? And when you pull back, do the same thing. It might be different on the way back, but chances are it's just more accentuated the way you notice on the way out. And then do the same thing on the left side. Just go ahead and just flex the foot and push the left heel forward. And just kind of notice what that knee wants to do, which can be totally different than the other side. And one more time, without really guiding it or asking much of it, as you push that heel forward, notice if the toes want to go out or into the midline, right? And especially when you pull back, that's usually where the pattern really shows itself for most bodies, right? So then we're going to go ahead and we're going to add on to it. Now we're going to ask a few things of the body. So flex the foot, right? Pull the toes back. And this time when you go forward, you might put your hands behind your head and lift your head just in case there was, you're not sure and your proprioceptive sense is not accurate. And push that heel forward. And again, just kind of notice and ask the knee to go straight up to the ceiling, right? And straight forward when you pull it in and out. Yeah? Do that one more time. Just kind of watch the knee. Your head can be really soft here, your neck, I mean. Your head's laying in the hammock of the hands. And then notice, see with your eyes what the knee is doing, feel it, and then bring the head down and try to leave the upper body out of it. Now, one little addition for a few more of these is when you push out, right, I'd like you to push down. So really actively push the foot down into the ground and push it forward and get that extra resistance, yeah? So we're working with eccentric and concentric as opposed to isometric. And then pull that heel back. And then let that be that. My blanket's getting all ripped up here. And then go ahead and do the same thing with your left leg, right? As you push the heel forward, you might lift your head for a moment. And again, my hands are behind my head, so my neck does not have to do this work. Please don't do that to your body. And then as I pull my leg back, I'm going to really watch that knee. Now, this knee is the one for me that really is unstable, meaning it wants to move kind of all over. And it takes a lot of effort for me to keep it in the center, right? And once you've seen where center is with your eyes and hopefully felt that, mentally mapped it, I called, go ahead and do it again, but this time push down as you push forward and pull back, right? So really put a little effort into the amount of pressure you have with that heel on the ground. And pause. So that is neutral alignment of the legs, the knees, the ankles, yeah? So now we're going to play a little bit. Now I want you to go ahead and we're going to do the same thing, but this time we're going to let the right leg fall out to the right. We're going to flex the foot. I'll be on the very outer edge of my heel, and I'm going to slide my heel forward. This is the easier for most bodies. Most of us are duck-footed, I call it. And then go ahead and pull that back. And then you're going to go through this a couple of times. The left hip might come up a little bit, but try not to let it really rock up and like move the pelvis everywhere. Try to keep your pelvis really stable. I like to put my left hand on my left hip point, so I just have some awareness in that left side so it stays stable, yeah? And again, I'm pushing down as I'm pulling back. I'm pushing down as I'm pushing forward. And I'm just noticing how that changes, right? My experience, we'll say, yeah, in that right hip / knee / ankle. The next time that you come back, you're going to go ahead and you're going to bring that knee back up and let your left knee fall out to the left. Again, it might help to put that right hand on the hip and try to stabilize that hip as much as possible. And then push that heel forward and pull it back. Now, you don't really necessarily need to look at this one. I mean, you can if you want, or if it feels like you have no idea where your pelvis or your leg is in space, do, right, and see if that helps. But otherwise, we're just letting our leg go out to the side as far as it comfortably can. And we're moving in the same fashion. I'm pushing both down and either forward or down and pulling back. And just noticing how this changes the experience in this leg. Right? Does this feel easier, harder, etc.? You can kind of look at some of that stuff. And then the next time that you're back, you're going to bring that knee up. Now, go ahead and walk your right foot out to the right and lean your knee into center. So now we go towards knock-kneed and or pigeon-toed, right? Your toes may or may not turn in with that. Now, I'm going to try to still work with the inner heel as best I can, but if for some reason that's not making connection or it works more through the ball mound of the big toe, that's okay too. And I'm going to start to slide the heel forward. So it's the same motion. Now, when you do one of these motions, you're getting big pain in the knee joint, why on earth are you continuing to do that? You guys know me well enough, right? Don't do that. Don't work that line, or don't let it lean in quite as far. Maybe you just lean it in an inch and you see, does it hurt there? Oh, no, it doesn't. That's interesting. Like, where does that begin, that pain? And don't go into the pain. Go just before it and work from that place. Or just leave the knee in neutral rotation and work from that place. I'm pushing down just as much as I'm pushing forward or pulling back. For this one, it is the right hip that might want to rock up a little bit. Try to keep your hips neutral. Again, if it helps to put your hands on your as-is bones, do it. And next time you're back, that will end that session. Put your foot back in the middle of, well, the middle, right in line with the buttocks bone, not the middle of the mat, in line with the buttocks bone, the neutral. And then walk your left foot out. And again, flex that foot a little bit, lean the knee in, and start that motion of pushing the heel, sliding the heel forward and back, right? And take time, move slow. It's not about how many reps you get, right? Really bring your awareness into your knee joint at this time. Exception would be if you're having pain somewhere else, right? And again, if you are having pain in one of the joints, come out of it a little bit. See if when you come out, is the pain still there? Can you move in an inch and an inch and an inch from neutral and find out just before the pain and work from there, right? And just notice what you notice. This is the hardest in my body. Internal rotation is really hard because I'm constantly, right, between gymnastics and dance, I did so much external rotation. Go ahead and bring the feet in. The foot in, put the foot in neutral and pause and just notice what you notice around the hip joints, the knee joints, the ankle joints. Maybe you're noticing, sensation or a temperature change, any of those kinds of things. Okay, so now go ahead and bring your knee, your right knee, in towards your chest. I want you to interlace behind the knee. You don't even have to interlace necessarily, but I want you to, there are two tendons that run, one on the inner part of the knee and one on the outer side. You'll feel them. They're thick, burly little buggers, those tendons, right? So I like to interlace personally, but I'm going to jam my hand right up into the tendons, so right up into the knee joint, and then I'm going to pull, I'm going to let my shin come down, and I'm going to pull my leg gently this way. So I'm just doing a little traction into my knee joint. As I do that, I'm going to simultaneously reach my right hip, my right buttocks bones forward. So I try to neutralize my pelvis so that when I jerk my knee, I don't jerk my right hip up to my right shoulder, right? So try to keep your hips nice and neutral, reaching your buttocks bones forward, but then again, I'm pulling into my tendons of my knee. And breathe. And then you can leave the hand there or not, and just go ahead and a couple of times pump that knee joint, right, with the foot going up higher than the knee higher than the hip. And here we are in a little inversion. Leave the leg up, and let's go ahead and start to circle that foot a couple of times, a few times. Go the other way. Push that heel up and pause, and then we're going to go into the IT band. So leave the right hip down on the ground as you move that leg slightly across, but also slightly back towards that back left corner of the mat. Like if I actually got my toes down, they would come just a little bit outside of the left side of my head, yeah? And breathe. This is the footwork week, right? 2 weeks ago. Pull your pinky toe edge back to your outer hip and push more through the ball mound of the big toe. How does that change the experience? Come back to center, put that foot down. We're gonna bring that left knee in, interlace behind or just jam up into those tendons, right? And then I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna start to pull the knee gently back, but as I do that, simultaneously I reach my left buttocks forward. So I stabilize my pelvis with that motion, reaching the left buttocks forward. And then I pull my hands into my tendons and I just come into the back of that knee. I let that knee fall, the shin fall over that and let the leg be soft. And just take a moment playing with the back of the knee, right? And as I do this, of course, it expands the front side with that compression on the back. And then I'm gonna go ahead and I can leave my hands in there or not. I'm gonna go ahead and flex my foot and start to just kind of pump through my knee a couple of times. It's a pretty soft flex. Sorry, I shouldn't guide you into full flexion yet. Full dorsiflexion. And then push that heel up and start to activate. The hamstrings, yep, you betcha. I'm interested in the ITBM though. So you can bring your hands around that leg or not. Keep that left hip down and forward, right? So the hip's stable is what I'm saying. And I'm moving that slightly to the right, but also a little towards the back side, that back right side of my mat. And then, you know, check into the foot. I can always use more if I'm not paying attention. My foot doesn't ever want to do this by itself, right? I pull my pinky toe edge back to my outer hip. I push the ball onto my big toe, and I definitely breathe. Whole, I went cross-country skiing the other day too, so I got all kinds of ITB. I'm like, whoa, hi. And so as come back to center, and oh, I didn't have you circle your foot. I apologize. Let's do that while we're still up here. And go the other way. This is where I miss live classes where someone can be like, oh, we gotta circle the foot. And then go ahead and bring that foot down and pause. So now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna extend your right leg out. Bring the left knee over like you're moving into half bound angle. And then this one we're gonna roll over, right? And we're gonna see if the hip and the knee allow it. We might just stay right here. I'll give you an option if you're like, no, I can't do that. We might start to reach that right leg behind us, and I'm gonna move back a little bit because otherwise I think I might be off camera, right? But I'm gonna start to come over and I'm gonna lay in that leg a little bit. So it's kind of like pigeon, but a little safer for the knee. My leg is not all the way out. Please don't do that right now, and especially not this early in the practice, and that's not gonna be, I don't believe for most of us that helps knee health. I think a lot of us push that a lot. So go ahead and maybe you rock a little to one side and a little to the other. We're working the outside of that left hip and knee, yeah? You can just stay over and not go all the way in and just work at a point of right before the pain. But again, if the joints say it's okay, you might just gently roll a little bit back and forth and breathe. Funny how, you know, it's one of the most repetitive things you hear in class, and yet every time someone says it, I don't know, 22 years in, and I'm still like, oh yeah, breathe, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. And then go ahead, and you're gonna roll onto your back again. Pardon me, my back will be to you, but who knows, maybe that'll give you some good information about the pose. I'm gonna let my left leg extend. I'm gonna start to let my right leg into Baddha Konasana, and then I'm gonna maybe roll up over towards it. And again, I might stay back a little bit and just work from this place. Oh, I didn't give, an option would be, I would say thread the needle is pretty close muscularly to where we're working, right? And you might come up onto that leg a little bit. Again, my heel is back by my pubic bone. I am not getting my shin parallel to the front of where I'm looking right now. That's not the pigeon we're gonna work with, right? This is just a nice, soft, gentle version for the knees and the hips. And then when you feel complete, you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna roll back onto your back body. And come on back into the middle of your mat for a moment. Pause and just notice what you notice, right? So again, we're waking up a few things, but the main concentration today is the knees and the hips. We're starting to move up towards those hip joints a little bit, so just kind of notice what you notice there, yeah? Okay, so now let's go ahead and we're going to walk the feet out Don't mind me. I'm just going to take a nap. We're going to walk our feet out as wide as our mat. Tee our arms out. Take an inhale. With an exhale, bend your knees. Swish your legs over to the right, your knees. Inhale up, windshield wiper. Exhale, swish the knees over to the left. And inhale back up. And that's your pattern. So go ahead and just start to move into that at your own pace. Hopefully your pace is not too fast, so you can be really mindful, and so that you can have that conversation with your parasympathetic nervous system. And then if and when it feels appropriate, right, when your knees go to the right, you'll do that thing where we swing that left knee up towards that armpit, that right armpit. Yeah, and we come back to neutral, and then we come over to the left and we swing the right knee up towards the left armpit, right? And so you can bring that into the pattern if that feels appropriate for your body. And starting to move and twist through that sacrum and low back as well, but I'm really interested in the line of the outer hip into the back of the sacrum here. And then the next time you're over to the right, if that left knee is coming up, you're going to bring your hand under the leg for now, and you're going to flex that left foot and push it out. So I'm going to keep my heel at the height of my left hip. That might be higher for you, but don't bring it to the floor, right? And I'm going to push that heel forward. I'm going to keep my left shoulder down, maybe look to the left, and then I'm going to imagine that I, Crystal Joy Johnson, am there, right? And or I would imagine my teacher, Carmen Fitzgibbon, quite honestly, and pulling my hip forward as I do this. And then one more thing, we're bringing that foot back just because it's so important to the knee and the hip, right? If I let my pinky toe edge go forward like it would like to, I overstretch my knee and my hip, and I'm not doing any stabilizing there at all, right? But if I pull that pinky toe edge back, I start to turn on those muscles, and I start to tone them. And then hopefully they start to work just as much as the inner edge of all of those joints. Bend that knee, come on back through center, and over to the left. And if you're bringing that right leg up, that left hand's going to come under to support, right? Again, if your hip is all the way into the twist, please don't drop that heel lower today. Keep it level with your hip, right? And then from there, as I flex that foot and move it out, I turn my head to the right. I imagine some beautiful, kind soul grabbing that right hip and sliding, pulling that forward to traction me out of my low back, right? And then I'm going to pay attention to that foot. I don't have to necessarily look at it. Can you feel this out? Pull the pinky, and if you wonder why, let the pinky toe go forward like it would like to for 85 to 90% of bodies, right? And just notice the knee and the hip. Now pull the pinky toe edge back and notice how that starts to tone those muscles, including the ankle, by the way, right, on those joints, so that they get recruited to stabilize. They don't often. Bend the knee and bring that foot down and come back through center. And let the feet stay wide, but lean the knees in and just pause here for a moment. So we've got one more little bit here, and we're going to come up off of our backs for it. So just enjoy this moment on your back. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to roll over to one side and come on up. If you have that blanket down, you're going to want to move the blanket out of the way, so you have a little bit more of your sticky mat. I think you'll be fine with socks if you want to leave your socks on, right? And come up to standing. So stand in Tadasana, right? Mountain pose. Feet approximately hip distance. Go ahead and bend your knees a little bit and look down, and just notice if they're knocking in or are they going wide, right? Try to have them be right in the center. And then go ahead and pull your kneecaps up as you straighten the legs. And I could bring in the footwork, but hopefully some of that is starting to sink in. We're all three points of each of the tripod, in the tripod of each foot, right? We have some weight in our heels. We're not forgetting that part, right? And then go ahead and I want you to try to pull your pinky toe edge up off of the ground, and notice how that internally rotates the thighs and the knees move into each other. You can look at my body or down at your own, but then don't stay in that position. Come up and then come up. Now push into the pinky edge of your foot, and you can look down or just look at my body. It's pretty apparent. I start to go into external rotation. My knees go out, right? So for those of us who walk in the outer edge of our feet, which is the majority of us, and even if we're duck-footed, even if we're not, if we're constantly in that inverted position of the foot, well, gosh, right? It's not a terrible thing, but it might be that with years of working the body in that particular pattern, it could start to cause a little bit of damage to joints down there, yeah? So just for now, have your legs in that neutral position, the knees pointing straight forward, and here's the last piece of it, right? Sorry, I have something in my eye that's driving me bonkers. And from there, you're gonna go ahead, you can just leave your hands on your hips for now, and I want you to bend your knees, but don't go too far into your chair, especially for my people who are like, no, I need to get my strength today. Hold your horse's buckles, right? So find the weight is still distributed in all three corners of both feet. Most of us will start to put the weight in the ball mounds and we'll start to take it out of the heels. Put a little more weight in the heels and notice how that starts to stabilize. There's more that has to turn on to stabilize you here now, yeah? And then bend in just a little bit more. Keep that belly toned in, keep some weight in the heels, right? So I still am working towards that totally I don't have hair to grab anymore, that totally elongated spine. Maybe bend in a little bit more, knowing this is the last stop on this journey. We'll come up, we'll do it again. And then I'm gonna actually literally pull my hips back without bending my knees more, right? So it's that traction action. And as I do that, I'm gonna reach my chest forward and up. I'm gonna keep some weight in my heels, and then I'm gonna really slowly come up, trying to keep those knees straight forward, and pause and breathe. So you can do that again where you are. I'm going to bring us one more challenge. Pardon me for the, I didn't think this out with, but I want the wall work over here, right? So pardon that terrible, terrible filming change there. But you might come over to a wall, and the same idea, but now we have this supporting us, which means we can stay in a little longer, but holy crap, it's an awful lot of work. So go ahead and start to walk your feet forward, hip distance. I am gonna take my socks off for this one, otherwise I think I'll slip and fall, right? And then you want your knees to be over your ankles, and you're gonna try to get your hips the same height as your knees. So you have a 90-degree in both the ankle, the knee, and I guess the hip, so you have 3 90-degree angles. And again, try to keep those knees straight forward over the toes. For most of us, that means we need to push more into the inner edge of the foot. I could say that. Last week, ankles, hug your outer ankle in. I could say that. We could also work from the inner groin. Moving into that imaginary beach ball for most of us is a useful tool. If you're knock-kneed, that's not you. You would push out into walls on either side of your thighs, right? And you would move into that and find that isometric action. And maybe you reach those arms up. Don't let those low floating ribs come off of the ground. I'm gonna go wide because it's pretty early for me and my shoulders are not open. Go ahead and take another breath. And then push, 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 come up. Walk back. Come on down. Let's, you can stay at the wall if you want. Oh, I should stay at the wall because otherwise I have to switch the camera again. And you can sit on something or sit against the wall or go back to your mat. Let's just take just a couple of moments. Didn't think that one out, did I? And pause. Now, if you want to go into Shavasana, you are welcome to, but we're not going to lay all the way down. We're just going to take a few moments to just kind of digest that, so to speak. I mean, you hear me, I'm out of breath. Holding chair against the wall for me is, I don't know if I've shared that, but chair pose was my second least favorite pose for most of my, quote, yoga career. And then in Warrior One, my least favorite. And I've discovered through the years why is because they point out my asymmetries so strongly, and they're very hard for me to hold and to stabilize. And they're no longer my least favorite poses, I would say. I've worked with them quite a bit, and I've got a lot of respect for them, but man, they still, whew. Bring your hands together in front of your heart, inhale. Exhale, bow your head in. Taking a moment of gratitude. Namaste, friends. You know, the wise ones say that the poses we don't like are the ones we need the most. So, if you find you have a couple of poses you don't like, you might try to play with them more and see if they have something to teach you. Have such a wonderful day. Bye.